At 12 years old, Sarah Chen was already being called the next Einstein, a mathematical prodigy who could solve complex equations that stumped university professors. But on a rainy autumn morning at prestigious Bradford Academy, she stands before the school board, tears streaming down her face as she's falsely accused of cheating on her groundbreaking research project. Despite her pleas of innocence, they expel her, destroying not just her reputation, but her single mother's sacrifices to give her a better life. As security escorts her out, Sarah makes a quiet promise that leaves the room silent. 8 years from now, when you see my name again, you'll remember this day. Now, at age 20, as Sarah walks onto the TED Talk stage as the youngest tech CEO in Silicon Valley history, her former accusers are about to discover the true price of underestimating a brilliant mind with nothing left to lose. Like and subscribe to follow this powerful story of how one girl's shattered dreams became the foundation of a revolution that would change the world forever. Sarah Chen's last day at Bradford Academy began like any other. Her worn backpack was heavy with books, her mind already racing with equations and ideas as she walked through the prestigious school's iron gates. At 12, she was the youngest student ever admitted to the Academy's advanced program, and the only one on financial aid. "You're better than all of them," her mother had said that morning, straightening Sarah's second-hand uniform. Never forget that. Ming Chen had worked 3 jobs to afford the partial scholarship tuition, determined to give her daughter opportunities she never had. Sarah was halfway to her first class when Principal Harrison's secretary found her. "The board would like to see you immediately," she said, her expression carefully neutral. In the oak-paneled boardroom, 13 adults sat in judgment. Dr. Victoria Walsh, Sarah's research mentor, wouldn't meet her eyes. On the table lay Sarah's project, a theoretical approach to quantum computing that had attracted attention from major universities. "Miss Chen," Principal Harrison began, his voice cold, "we've received evidence that your research project was plagiarized. Multiple passages match papers published in advanced scientific journals." Sarah felt the floor tilt beneath her feet. "That's impossible. I cited every source. The similar passages are because I was building on existing theory. We've also discovered you accessed the faculty computer network without authorization," Harrison continued. "The evidence is quite clear." "I had permission," Sarah protested. "Dr. Walsh gave me the password for the research database." "I did no such thing," Dr. Walsh interrupted, finally looking up. Her face was pale but determined. "I would never give a student access to secure systems." Sarah stared at her mentor in disbelief. Dr. Walsh had been like a second mother to her, encouraging her work, sharing her own passion for science. Just last week, they'd celebrated a breakthrough together over hot chocolate in her office. "Tell them the truth," Sarah pleaded. "Please." But she saw something in Dr. Walsh's eyes, fear mixed with guilt. Later, Sarah would learn that the prestigious Cambridge position Dr. Walsh had been offered came with a condition: make sure Sarah's revolutionary theory didn't overshadow her new department's work. "The board has voted unanimously," Harrison announced. "You are hereby expelled from Bradford Academy. Your project will be struck from the record, and we will be informing other institutions of this academic dishonesty." Sarah felt her dreams crumbling. Without Bradford on her record, without letters of recommendation, no other good school would accept her. The quantum computing theory she'd worked on for 2 years would be buried, discredited. "You're making a mistake," she said, her voice shaking. "What I discovered, it could change everything about how we process information, how we communicate, how we—" "That's enough," Harrison cut her off. "Security will escort you out. Your mother has already been called." As the guards led her through the hallways, Sarah saw her classmates watching. Some looked shocked, others smirked. Amanda Walsh, Dr. Walsh's daughter and Sarah's longtime tormentor, filmed everything on her phone, probably already planning how to make the video go viral. Outside, in the pouring rain, Sarah found her mother, waiting. Ming Chen's restaurant uniform was soaked. She must have run all the way from work when they called. "I didn't do it, Mom," Sarah sobbed as they hugged. "I swear I didn't." "I know, baby," Ming whispered. "I know." They walked home in silence, both knowing their dreams of a better future had just been shattered. But as they reached their small apartment, Sarah stopped. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "They think they can bury my work, bury me, but they have no idea what I'm really capable of." Ming saw something new in her daughter's eyes, not defeat, but determination. "What will you do?" Sarah looked back at the distant spires of Bradford Academy, barely visible through the rain. "I'm going to build something so big, so revolutionary, that they'll have to watch me succeed. And when I do, they'll remember the day they tried to destroy me." The next few years tested everything Sarah and her mother had. Without Bradford's prestigious name behind her, no other private school would accept her. The public school in their district was overcrowded and underfunded with no advanced programs. So Sarah created her own education. During the day, she attended mandatory classes, sitting silently through lessons she'd mastered years ago. But at night, in their tiny apartment, she built her future. Ming converted their small living room into a makeshift lab, buying used computer parts with her tip money. Sarah learned to code by watching free online tutorials, often staying up until dawn debugging programs. "You need to sleep," Ming would say, bringing her daughter tea during her midnight study sessions. "I'll sleep when I've proven them wrong," Sarah would reply, her eyes never leaving the computer screen. The quantum computing theory that Bradford had tried to bury wasn't forgotten. Sarah refined it, expanded it, working through the complex mathematics on any surface she could find. Notebooks, paper napkins from her mother's restaurant, even the walls of her bedroom. When she was 14, she started entering online coding competitions under a pseudonym. She won most of them, using the prize money to buy better equipment. By 15, she was secretly freelancing as a programmer, helping support her mother, who had developed arthritis from years of waitressing. But it was during her junior year of high school that everything changed. Sarah discovered a fundamental flaw in how modern encryption systems process data. Instead of exposing it, she developed a solution, a revolutionary security protocol that could protect against quantum computing attacks that didn't even exist yet. "You need to publish this," her computer science teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, urged when she showed him. He was the only person who knew her full capabilities, the only teacher who had looked past her quiet exterior to see her brilliance. "Not yet," Sarah replied. "It's not ready." What she didn't tell him was that she was building something bigger. The security protocol was just one piece of a larger vision, a complete reimagining of how computers could process and protect information. At 17, while her classmates were worrying about prom and college applications, Sarah was filing her first patent. She used her coding competition prize money and took a calculated risk. Instead of applying to colleges, she would pour everything into developing her technology. Ming was worried but supportive. "You're sure about this?" "Trust me, Mum," Sarah said, showing her the business plan she'd developed. "In 3 years, you'll never have to work another double shift again." She was wrong. It only took 2 years. At 19, Sarah's security protocol caught the attention of major tech companies. But instead of selling it, she did something unprecedented. She founded her own company, Chen Quantum Systems. The venture capital world was skeptical. Who would trust a teenage girl with millions in investment? But Sarah didn't need their trust. She had mathematics and innovation on her side. When she demonstrated her technology's capabilities at a major tech conference, the investors came running. Now, at 20, Sarah Chen was about to step onto the TED Talk stage as the youngest CEO of a billion-dollar tech company in Silicon Valley history. In the audience sat many familiar faces, including Principal Harrison and Dr. Walsh. They hadn't recognized her name at first. Chen was a common surname, and they had worked hard to forget the embarrassing incident from 8 years ago. But as they read the speaker's biography in the program, the blood drained from their faces, because Sarah wasn't just going to talk about her company's success. She was going to demonstrate, live on stage, the very same quantum computing theory they had accused her of stealing, now developed into technology that would revolutionize the world. And that was just the beginning of what she had planned for her old accusers. Sarah stood in the wings of the TED stage, listening to her introduction. She wore a simple black dress, no designer labels, nothing flashy. Her mother had taught her that true power doesn't need to show off. And now, please welcome Sarah Chen, founder and CEO of Chen Quantum Systems, speaking on the future of information, breaking barriers and building bridges. As she walked onto the stage, Sarah spotted them immediately. Principal Harrison had aged considerably, his hair now completely white. Dr. Walsh sat rigid in her seat, clutching her program so tightly her knuckles were white. And there, in the third row, Amanda Walsh, now a struggling graduate student at the university where her mother had taken that prestigious position. "When I was 12 years old," Sarah began, her voice clear and strong, "someone told me I didn't belong in their world, that my ideas couldn't possibly be my own because people like me don't make discoveries." She clicked her remote, and the screen behind her displayed the Bradford Academy logo. What they didn't understand was that innovation doesn't care about your background, mathematics doesn't check your bank account, truth doesn't need prestigious letterhead to be true. In the audience, Harrison shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Walsh looked like she might be ill. "The quantum computing theory I developed as a child was dismissed as plagiarism. Today, that same theory powers technology that protects millions of people's data. It safeguards their privacy, their finances, their very identities." Sarah clicked again, and complex equations filled the screen, the same ones from her original research paper. But this talk isn't about revenge. It's about something more important: possibility. Every day there are brilliant minds being told they don't belong, that their dreams are too big, their goals too ambitious, their backgrounds too humble. She looked directly at her former accusers as she continued. "To them, I say this: they're wrong. Your circumstances don't define your capabilities. Your zip code doesn't determine your potential. And sometimes, the very people who try to shut you down become the catalyst for your greatest achievements." Then Sarah did something unexpected. She showed a photo of her tiny apartment, of the makeshift lab in their living room, of her mother working double shifts. This is where Chen Quantum Systems was born. Not in a fancy lab or an ivy-covered institution, but in a one-bedroom apartment above a laundromat. My mother worked 18-hour days so I could buy computer parts from pawn shops. Our neighbors shared their Wi-Fi so I could learn coding online. Ming Chen, sitting in the front row, wiped tears from her eyes as her daughter continued. "Today, I'm announcing the Chen Foundation for Innovation Access. We're committing $50 million to identify and support young innovators who face barriers to entry in tech and science. Every child who's ever been told they don't belong, we're going to prove their doubters wrong." Sarah clicked one final time and a website appeared on screen. At the top was a familiar logo. But instead of Bradford Academy's proud lion, it showed a phoenix rising from ashes. The Foundation's first project will be a full scholarship program at Bradford Academy. The audience gasped. Harrison looked like he might faint. "Yes, we've purchased Bradford Academy. which was facing bankruptcy after some unfortunate investment decisions. Starting next semester, 50% of its students will come from underprivileged backgrounds, all on full scholarship. And Dr. Walsh? The woman's head snapped up at her name. You'll be pleased to know we're establishing a special research program in ethical scientific mentorship. In your name, actually. So no other student has to learn the hard way that success and integrity aren't mutually exclusive. The aftermath of Sarah's TED Talk was immediate and far-reaching. Within hours, the video went viral, with millions sharing their own stories of being underestimated and dismissed. Principal Harrison resigned the next day. Dr. Walsh's university began an ethics investigation into her past research practices. But Sarah wasn't finished. After the talk, she held a press conference to announce more details about the Chen Foundation's plans for Bradford Academy. The school will keep its name, she explained to reporters, but its mission will change. Excellence shouldn't be reserved for those who can afford it. Genius doesn't check bank accounts before choosing minds to inhabit. Ming Chen stood beside her daughter at the podium, still wearing her waitress uniform. She'd insisted on finishing her last shift before retiring. My daughter taught me something, she told the cameras. Sometimes the greatest revenge is success shared with others. As they left the press conference, they found Amanda Walsh waiting by their car. She looked different from the privileged teenager who had mocked Sarah years ago. Humbler, tired. I know you probably hate me, Amanda began. I would, but I need to tell you something about what really happened that day. Sarah studied her former tormentor carefully. I'm listening. My mother, she was desperate for that Cambridge position, but they were worried about your research overshadowing their department. They told her to discredit you or lose the offer. Amanda's voice cracked. I helped her plant the evidence on the school computers. I was the one who made it look like you'd hacked in. I know, Sarah replied quietly. I figured it out years ago when I was learning about digital forensics. The timestamps didn't match up. Amanda looked shocked. You knew? Then why didn't you expose us? Because destroying you wouldn't have fixed anything. I needed to build something bigger than revenge, something that would prevent it from happening to others. The scholarship program, Amanda realized. The ethical mentorship initiative. Your mother's actions showed me how fear and insecurity can corrupt even brilliant minds. The system needs to change, not just the people in it. Amanda wiped tears from her eyes. I've been struggling to finish my PhD. No one takes me seriously anymore, not since my mother's research was questioned. I guess that's karma. Sarah considered this for a moment, then pulled out a business card. Chen Quantum Systems is always looking for researchers who understand the importance of ethical science. Someone who's learned those lessons the hard way might be exactly what we need. You'd give me a chance. After everything. 8 years ago, someone took my chance away. I won't do the same to others, even those who hurt me. But, Sarah's voice turned stern, you'll start at the bottom. No shortcuts. You'll have to earn every step up. Amanda nodded eagerly. Thank you. I won't let you down. As they drove home, Ming looked at her daughter proudly. You're a better person than I am. I might not have been so forgiving. Sarah smiled. The best revenge isn't making others fail. It's helping them become better people. Besides, she added with a slight smirk, having Amanda Walsh work her way up from entry level under my supervision might be the most satisfying revenge of all. 5 years later, Bradford Academy's transformation was complete. The historic building remained, but everything else had changed. Students from all backgrounds filled its halls, each chosen for their potential rather than their parents' bank accounts. Sarah made a point of visiting regularly, teaching occasional classes in the same room where she'd once been accused of cheating. The original quantum computing equation still covered one wall, now preserved behind glass as inspiration for future students. Amanda Walsh had indeed started at the bottom at Chen Quantum Systems, but her dedication proved genuine. She now led the company's ethics department, developing guidelines to ensure technology served humanity rather than exploiting it. Dr. Walsh had a harder path. After the ethics investigation ended her academic career, she struggled to find purpose. But one day, she arrived at Sarah's office unannounced. "I've spent years hiding from what I did to you," she said. "I'd like to make amends, if you'll let me." Sarah considered this carefully. The new Bradford needs teachers who understand both brilliance and humility. Someone who's learned the hard way what happens when we let ambition override ethics. Now Dr. Walsh teaches scientific ethics at Bradford, using her own story as a cautionary tale. Her course is mandatory for all students. Ming-Chen never went back to waitressing. Instead, she runs the Chen Foundation's outreach program, personally visiting schools in underprivileged areas to identify promising students. Sometimes, she tells parents, genius hides in unexpected places. My daughter taught me that. On the 10th anniversary of her expulsion, Sarah stood again in Bradford's boardroom. But this time, she wasn't alone. Beside her stood a 12-year-old girl from the Bronx, trembling with nerves as she prepared to present her research on sustainable energy. "Remember," Sarah told her quietly, "your circumstances don't define your capabilities." The girl squared her shoulders and began her presentation. In the audience, Sarah saw the same spark she'd had at that age, the burning need to prove that brilliance knows no boundaries. Later that evening, at a small celebration dinner, Ming raised a toast. "To second chances," she said, "and to those brave enough to give them." Sarah looked around the table, at Amanda, working to redeem her past, at Dr. Walsh, teaching others from her mistakes, at the young girl from the Bronx, already sketching equations on her napkin. "To the future," Sarah added, "and to everyone who ever dared to dream bigger than their circumstances." Chen Quantum Systems continues to revolutionize technology. The Chen Foundation has funded thousands of scholarships. But Sarah's true legacy isn't in the billions her company is worth or the awards on her wall. It's in the changed lives, the opened doors, the minds set free to soar. It's in every student who walks through Bradford's gates, knowing that their potential, not their background, will determine their future. Because sometimes the greatest achievements come not from the need to prove others wrong, but from the desire to prove something better, that success without compassion is empty, that forgiveness can be stronger than revenge, and that the best way to overcome injustice is to ensure it never happens again.